no poll. So imagine this. You're Netflix. You've just dropped a massive bag on Meghan Markle, like millions. You're thinking, yes, royal drama, glitz, juicy exclusives, a guaranteed subscriber magnet. You expect power, raw emotions, truth bombs, something real. But what do you get instead? A PR nightmare so messy, even Netflix's own execs started whispering, "What did we just do?" It all kicked off with a show called With Love, Meghan. It was pitched as this raw, heartwarming documentary-style look into Meghan's life post-police, philanthropy, motherhood, struggles, triumph, all that jazz. But oh honey, behind the camera, it was all smoke and mirrors. The first major red flag, a supposedly sweet moment of Meghan reading to underprivileged kids at a literacy center. Sounds heart-melting, right? Well, turns out those weren't real kids. They were hired child actors. The volunteers, not locals, Meghan's personal staff playing dress up. Donations returned right after the camera stopped rolling. Every single shot staged. Even the laughter in the background was fake, literal sound effects. And when that little secret got out, Netflix went into full-on panic mode. Execs were fuming. They didn't sign up to produce a Hallmark movie. They wanted authenticity, not a glossy PR stunt. But wait, it gets worse. There was a segment Meghan allegedly wrote herself, accusing a senior royal of emotional abuse during her pregnancy. Explosive stuff, right? But surprise, no proof, no documents, no witnesses, just her word. Netflix's legal team saw that and were like, absolutely not. They yanked the whole segment out before Buckingham Palace could come storming in with lawsuits. But by then, the trust was shattered. Now, behind the scenes, total chaos. Crew members, editors, assistants, people started leaking stories anonymously. And they were brutal. Meghan, they said, was a control freak. She micromanaged every single frame, rewrote scenes last minute, and shut down anyone who dared push back. One editor spilled that Meghan would demand cuts if her shot didn't make her look powerful enough. Challenge her, you were gone. Just like that, it got so toxic, Netflix had to bring in conflict resolution specialists. Yes, actual professionals to manage the drama. But it was too late. Morale had hit rock bottom. Staff were quitting. Some flat out refused to come back for a second season, calling the show a royal ego trip. And then came the emotional gut punch, or more accurately, the fake one. There's this moment in the show where Meghan's sitting in her living room quietly crying while holding one of Archie's toys. It's soft, it's touching, it feels real. But guess what? It wasn't. The audio of her crying added later. She never even shed a tear. The lighting, digitally adjusted. The entire thing was manufactured, emotion by editing. An editor admitted this was a regular thing. Scenes weren't captured, they were crafted. Netflix realized they didn't have a docuseries. They had a reality show pretending to be deep and meaningful. They felt played. And you know what that means for Netflix? A credibility crisis. This wasn't just one bad show. This was a full-on betrayal, a brand-damaging, face-palming, how did we let this happen kind of disaster. When With Love, Meghan finally dropped, it had buzz. People tuned in. The Markle name still pulled in attention, but by episode 3, viewership plummeted. Over 60% dropped off. People weren't just bored, they were annoyed. Social media exploded with criticism. Viewers called the show fake, manipulative, overproduced. Even her longtime defenders started pulling back. One online critic nailed it. This isn't a docuseries. It's Meghan starring as her own misunderstood icon. Netflix's algorithms confirmed it. Viewers were checking out during the emotional scenes. Yes, the ones meant to pull at your heartstrings were the exact moments people bailed. Ouch. And then came the internal memo. It leaked. Oh yes, it leaked straight from Netflix's top brass. It didn't pull any punches. The message? Brutal. We can no longer treat Meghan Markle as an asset. She is a reputational liability. Her content lacks credibility, and the backlash is damaging brand trust. Mic drop. The memo also urged legal teams to go through every second of footage, frame by frame, to avoid future defamation lawsuits. He can go to any lawyer he wants. D3, sweet frame. She alleged legal teams have had 6 months to launch a legal fraud, but the Meghan Markle experiment? Officially over. Just when you thought it couldn't get any more twisted, boom. The legal team found another ticking time bomb. Some of the show's most precious, raw, and personal moments featured Meghan's kids, Archie and Lilibet, supposedly intimate scenes of motherhood. A glimpse into royal life behind closed doors, except they couldn't verify anything. Netflix lawyers started digging and quickly realized there were no release forms for several filming locations, no third-party confirmations, and worse, some of the footage raised serious red flags. There were whispers, rumors. Was Meghan Meghan using stand-ins for her own kids. That set off a full-blown compliance panic because in Hollywood, child protection laws are sacred, ironclad. If you mess with them, the fallout is nuclear. Netflix freaked. Some scenes got pulled immediately. New rules were slapped down. No child footage airs without strict legal review. What was supposed to be heartwarming? Now a legal landmine. But the real burn? The A-listers. The megawatt celebrity circle Meghan used to name drop like shiny accessories. When the show was in development, big names were promised. Oprah, Serena Williams, Tyler Perry, even Michelle Obama was floated. These weren't just cameos. These were supposed to anchor the series, bring weight, gravitas, star power. And yet, one by one, they backed out. Some quietly, no statements. Others said creative differences. But behind the scenes, word was spreading. Nobody wanted to attach themselves to what looked more and more like a PR circus. Hollywood knows when something smells off, and this project was reeking of self-obsession. Producers started whispering that Meghan was unpredictable. Not just demanding, controlling to the extreme. She overruled scripts, rewrote episodes mid-shoot, and fired back at anyone trying to reel her in. One insider called it a documentary by dictatorship. That's not drama, that's disaster. It didn't matter how experienced the crew was, Meghan ran the show. And if she didn't like something, it was gone, period. Netflix had given her too much creative freedom. What they thought would be a powerful collaborative vision turned into a one-woman branding crusade. And the price? It wasn't just millions in production costs. It was Netflix credibility burning at the stake. But hold on, it gets even darker. Inside Meghan's own editing room, post-production editors started connecting the dots. They saw a pattern, and it was ugly. The show's emotions, they weren't real. They were manufactured. Scene after scene was engineered for drama, artificial lighting, emotional background music, voiceovers added after the fact, timed perfectly to expressions that didn't mean anything in the raw footage. It wasn't storytelling, it was stagecraft. The worst, that now infamous clip of Meghan crying while holding one of Archie's toys, the one every media outlet ran with, calling it heartbreaking, the one that was supposed to make us feel her pain. Yeah, that one. And the unedited footage, Meghan doesn't cry. She doesn't even look sad. The lighting was basic, the room was quiet, all those emotional beats completely fake. The editors had stitched together a performance. One of them admitted, we weren't documenting her journey, we were fabricating one. Netflix execs were livid. They thought they were backing an honest, raw account of Meghan's life. What they got? A curated fantasy, posed, packaged, and pushed as truth. But here's the part that really blew everything up. Just when Netflix thought it couldn't get worse, it did. One of Meghan's most emotional monologues about being racially profiled at a grocery store hit viewers hard. It was personal, poignant, raw. Except, Reddit users caught something chilling. The story, word for word, identical to a viral Reddit post from 2017. Let that sink in. Word. Same details, same phrasing, same pain, just not hers. Side-by-side comparisons started going viral. Viewers were stunned. Fact-checkers jumped in, and what they found was devastating. That wasn't the only story Meghan had borrowed. Quotes, personal metaphors, even full anecdotes were lifted straight from online posts and repackaged as her own. It wasn't just embarrassing, it was deceptive. Meghan had taken other people's trauma and inserted it into her own narrative. For Netflix, a company that built its brand on authentic storytelling, this wasn't just a scandal, it was a betrayal. They weren't just caught in the middle, they were complicit. Viewer trust collapsed. Longtime Netflix loyalists started questioning the platform's standards. Subscriptions dropped over 200,000 during the quarter with Love Meghan aired. Shareholders demanded answers. Inside Netflix, it was DEFCON 1. Legal teams were yanking footage, drafting waivers, bracing for lawsuits. And Meghan, she wasn't a partner anymore. She was a liability. Behind the velvet curtains of Netflix HQ, panic turned into silence. A cold, calculated kind of silence. No press release, no official cancellation, no damage control campaign, nothing. Netflix just started pulling back. Slowly, deliberately. Internally, the word was clear. Cut ties. And not just with the show, with Meghan Markle herself. What began as a shiny content empire meant to rival Oprah's influence crumbled. Quietly, like a house of cards built on polished fiction. The message from the top, she's not an asset anymore, she's a risk. From the outside, it looked like a simple disappearance, but insiders knew the truth. Netflix had cut the cord, silently but decisively. Scripts shelved, projects killed, communications frozen. Meghan's so-called media empire had imploded, and no one was going in to rescue it. And Meghan? She didn't get the comeback arc. She got the Hollywood nightmare. Sponsors went ghost. Former celebrity friends? Radio silent. Public sentiment turned icy. People weren't outraged anymore. They were exhausted. That's the kiss of death in this town, not scandal, boredom. Even tabloids, who once clung to her every breath, now treated her like a punchline. The glamorous Duchess turned over edited disaster. Her reputation? Unrecoverable. Behind closed doors, Netflix's legal department was in overdrive, scrubbing footage, drafting waivers, prepping for lawsuits. They weren't just cutting costs, they were cutting liabilities. What was once sold as redefining royalty had morphed into one of the messiest content misfires in the platform's history. And let's be honest, this wasn't about cost cutting, this was damage control. Swift, surgical, ruthless. No PR spin, just the cold click of a content purge. All those millions burned. All that credibility gone. For Meghan, this wasn't just a show getting canceled. It was her brand getting erased in real time. Her platform? Gone. Her influence? Fading. Her narrative? No longer hers to control. In the end, Meghan had bet big on herself, on her story, on controlling every single frame. But the one thing she couldn't control? The truth. Messy, unfiltered, real. And it always finds a way through.